And a very good afternoon, everybody. Welcome in to another edition of This Week at Phillies Baseball. I'm your host, James Scorza, with you. And with me, as always, is a group of companions on a very busy Mets series coming into the full force here tonight for a battle of the battles of a four-game series coming up tonight between the Phillies and the Mets. But joining me, like we always do, for my Past Nap Sports Show, Joey Marks. Good to see you, buddy. How are you?
Oh, I'm getting excited for the Mets. I want to destroy them so badly.
Yes, as do I. And joining me today is also a good friend of mine from playing Rewind, Austin Hamill. Austin, what's going on, buddy? Good to see you.
Hey man, feeling good. Looking forward to this Met series.
Yeah, and it should be a lot of good series here, but there's a little bit of a breaking news story here before we go any further here. Obviously, coming up tonight, the Phillies take on the Mets in the first game of a four-game set. As always, um, before we get started, if you are a new member or also just a previous member or just a member already, always hit that like and subscribe button on our Hardcore Sports Network pages on also on Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, and everything about that included, and also Stream Punk Entertainment Pennsylvania along the way as well. But guys, there's actually a breaking news story that came out just a couple hours ago. So it looks to me Trey Turner and Alec Boehm are both on the 10-day IL. They will miss this series with the Mets here tonight. So, Joey, I'll ask you the first important question since this development happened around the time we were going to go live. What is your first immediate thoughts on the situation with Alec Boehm and Trey Turner, especially with this shocking development happening with this Mets series coming up tonight?
Well, this is where you have to see how much depth this team really has and how
Mm-hmm.
much fight this team really has. Trey Turner is still one of the best hitters in the league this season, and losing him is always going to be a big impact. Alec Baum has struggled as of late, but he's still a quality at bat, and he's kind of flared some of the leather as of late. My inkling for this Mets series is especially if they can pull off this series victory, it'll go a long, long way to proving that they have more depth on this team than previously expected. Because the going consensus has been there's only three guys that are on this in this lineup that are really any good, and I think that you will start to see some of the other you know, quote unquote no namers come
Right.
out of the woodwork like a
Right.
Harrison Bader and hopefully someone like a Nick Castellanos may decide to actually show up to the ballpark.
Would be nice. Yeah, it would be nice to see Castellanos finally step up here. Austin, same question to you. What's your immediate reaction when you hear the news about Trey Turner and now Alec Boehm being on the 10-day IL to begin this series with the Mets?
Same thing as Joe. It's going to be a real test to see the depth of this team. I do have the official lineup for tonight for the Phillies. Like we had said, Bryce Harper's batting leadoff, and
Hmm.
then it is Kyle Schwarber at 2, Real Muto 3, Kepler 4, Bader 5,
Hmm.
Castellanos 6, and then Stott, Sosa, and Kemp to round out the bottom 3 of the lineup.
Gotcha.
So I would have liked to have seen it Schwarber 1, Bader 2, Harper 3. Feel like it
Hmm.
would have been a bit more of a better comfort position for where those guys do like to hit sometimes in the lineup. Schwarber does have really good numbers in the leadoff spot. Harper's been a solid 3-4 hitter his entire career. But I mean, I'm very interested in seeing how Harper does in the leadoff position. It's just his second time doing so in the last 6 seasons. The last time was October 4th of 2022. Just really looking forward to seeing how this lineup plays with, not having that consistent extra base threat of Trey Turner with even just, chopping a ball through for a single and then stealing second and putting himself in scoring position with his speed on the base paths. So, just got to see what the resilience of this team is. That the heart of that lineup does still look really dangerous. Like I said, Real Muto, Kepler, Bader at 3, 4, 5 can be very solid if you let them get the opportunities. And especially Harrison Bader. That man has been a man on fire since he came to Philadelphia. He's been
Yeah.
playing extremely well, both offensively and defensively. And I've echoed this multiple times since we made that acquisition. Kepler's starting to come around a little bit. He's been starting to cool off a little in the past week and a half, 2 weeks. But these guys are starting the especially the Max Keplers. There is no Brandon Marsh available tonight. I heard he apparently has the flu, so he will not be available either. So it's definitely going to be a big test of resilience for this team because you have Otto Kemp playing at I believe he's playing at third, and then it's Edmundo Sosa at short. So gonna have to hope this lineup can really pull some stuff together and help get a big win here in the home stretch, trying to keep this division lead.
Yeah, for sure. I think for me, the one thing that sticks out to me the most is that there's 3 players on this team tonight, like you mentioned, that are not going to be playing tonight. You brought up Brandon Marsh, just like with the stomach virus, and Alec Boehm, and also with excuse me, Trey Turner with the injury. But more important than anything like that, though, I mean, this is probably one of the series that it could be, I wouldn't say like a cakewalk for the Mets, because obviously the Mets have continued to like annihilate you every chance you get. But this is something, I mean, I thought coming into this series, I thought it would be exciting to see like the home crowd feeling like Red October. But now seeing these 3 shocking developments, it's like, man, it's just that it's kind of like speechless a little bit to see these 3 players obviously not in the lineup tonight. But the worst part about it is just that it could be an advantage for the Mets too, gonna admit.
Yeah, I honestly, I think this is where the Phillies could honestly use that underdog mentality to kind of overcome some of the things. One thing we can say for sure is that even though the Mets have a good offense, we still have really good pitchers.
Sure.
And so, yeah, we can worry about that lineup producing without Trey Turner and Alec Baum and Brandon Marsh. One of the things that I could say is, Bader's been hitting over 300 since August 1st. This is another guy that's been batting really well, has been Otto Kemp. He's really shown, bright spots. Stott's starting to come around. Sosa, we know what he's capable of. It's, again, the linchpin of, I think, whether or not this team can cohesively put this together in the absence of those 3 players is Nick Castellanos. Right. Because him sitting in the middle of that lineup means that he is the bridge between whether the top and the bottom of the lineup can coexist, keep passing that baton.
Yeah, absolutely. Austin, you got anything before we move on?
Honestly, just the same. I was going to say this would be a really big series to see Nick Castellanos come alive. He's one of those big bats that you brought in to be sort of the heart of this Phillies lineup, and you've been missing the mark a little bit in the past like month or 2 of the season, and you want to try and get yourself into a good note coming into playoff time. Go ahead,
Austin. I wanted to say, we've seen Nick Castellanos go on heaters. We one of the criticisms and compliments of Nick Castellanos is that he can go real hot or go real cold. If there's any time for him to go real hot, it's now. It's right now at this moment with the Mets. Before we went on air, I asked, I think it was Austin, came to tell me what the Mets are in as far as the standings in the NL playoff picture. Look, this series is big. Not just for the idea of the division. I think that's almost done. But if with all the problems we have with the Mets in Queens, it'd be really nice if that team missed the playoffs. And I don't see that as a far-fetched thing to have happen, especially if the Phillies can be part of that first nail that goes into the Mets coffin.
Sure.
If we can do that in this 4-game series, it'll go a long, long way for the remaining 15, 16 games after this series.
So we got a comment here. My dad, Joe Scorza, excuse me. Time for and he says something about Nick Castellanos here. So it's time for the next man to step up, and that is Nick Castellanos right now. So the thing about with Castellanos that's pretty amazing is that, like you brought up, Joey, and that's perfectly well said, is that like there's games that he's like on a tear, and then when he gets like cold, he gets like ice cold just like that, without even a blink. I mean, for me, this is probably like Nick Castellanos. Like, he has to prove himself now that he wants to stay a part of this team, and also he has to show what he's capable of. And because obviously next year he might be a free agent. For me, this is the perfect time for Castellanos to step up. I do agree with what you guys said right there, and I think for what's that?
I forget whether it was and maybe one of you guys can correct me,
Hmm.
whether it was the 22 or the 23 playoff run, where like for a series or two, Nick Castellanos was basically the only offense we had, really, that was like showing up, and so that's why I go, okay.
Might have been 23. I mean, because in 22 he was like ice cold. And he was like
Okay.
His last at bats. But because can you
Yeah,
understand, Joe?
I mean, but that's my point. Like in those short stints, maybe that stretch, we definitely need Nick to kind of do what Nick can do best. We have seen him at his highest. We just need to see it again.
Right. So let's move on here. So basically, we have obviously we talk about standout performances every single week. So I think it's obviously the one thing that was the standout of the week was that the Phillies bats coming on live again, and also to see the starting pitching starting to become something. But I guess I got to ask you the question is, but I think I probably know the answer. Joe, I will ask you, who do you think was your standout performance this week? But of this week in Phillies baseball.
I'm gonna go with an unlikely person, Johan Duran. And the reason why I say that is in the Brewers series, which we haven't really gone into that, but because we're talking about the Mets series being so big, and it is. But going into Milwaukee, I said this on our show a week or so ago. I said that the Milwaukee series would be the litmus test for the Phillies when going into the playoffs, because we've beaten the Dodgers, we've beaten the Braves, the Mets give us issues in Queens, and like I said earlier, you kind of hope in some way that they continue to Met and they possibly miss the playoffs, so they are not a headache for you in the playoffs. Then you turn your attention to these scrappy Milwaukee Brewers, and you wonder whether or not you can hang with them. You go into their house, and not all of it was pretty, but Johan Duran really shut the door in some really close games. And I felt like in the last 6 games, it's good to know that for that guy, that particular position of that closer, that we have a guy who can shut the door. And it gives you confidence, both home and away.
Yeah, absolutely. Same question to you, Austin. Who was your standout performance for this week? I think your mic's all about.
It was. You're absolutely correct. My wife asked me a quick question while she was walking by. I wanted to echo Johan Duran, but honestly, I want to give it to Ranger Suarez.
Yeah,
he's been having solid outings again since the bit of the blow up in Cincinnati. Minimum 5 innings in his last 4 starts. He gave up the 10 hits against Atlanta, but still secured the win in that one. And being able to strike out 23 over his last 4 starts. The man's been putting forward some more quality starts again. He's stringing those together at the perfect time. Him and honestly Sanchez as well, and even like your dad said, Jesus Luzardo as well. Like just the starting pitching in general has been extremely solid, and it's been able to help us sort of carry through a lot of these tough fights. In terms of especially the Milwaukee series, Nola was kind of shaky, but we stayed in that game. Even that bad Taijuan Walker start yesterday, the offense kept him in that game, even going into the late innings. The team was still in it, but you really do have to give a lot of the credit to the pitching, not even just the starters. The entire bullpen as well. These guys have been putting in really solid work in keeping this team alive going into the stretch run here. and you really hope they can just keep that going. And it seems like with the consistency that we've had, they can keep doing it.
Yeah. So for me, the one thing that was my standout this week was it was just like going into Milwaukee and taking advantage and taking 2 out of 3 out of that. I mean that series is like it showed me something about that. It's that if they can play in a series like in an NLCS or an NLDS, like in the postseason, they can hang with the Brewers. I mean that was the one thing that was really a positive. I mean I thought everybody was like phasing on all cylinders all week. I thought the bullpen was fantastic. I thought the hitting was superb. I thought the starting pitching has become actually a resurrection going to meant to the. I mean, obviously Aaron Nola turning into a little bit Aaron Nola, and that game against Milwaukee. But taking 2 out of 3 against Milwaukee is hard to do, especially how hot they are, and also keeping them in check, and also that showed me something about that series. I mean, it was kind of like in 2017 when the Eagles had that 8-minute drive, and you thought, and they didn't give the ball back to the Chargers. And I said to myself, if they can hang like running the clock out, they can beat anybody. It's the same kind of mentality I have with this Phillies team. Is that if you can beat the best teams in football, or no, excuse me, the best teams in baseball rather, then you can probably go. I can understand that you can probably go far for sure. So for me, I thought everybody's standing out perfectly this week. The hitting, the pitching, and also the bullpen as well. I thought it was a very solid performance all around for the Phillies this week between the Brewers and the Marlins too.
I mean, you got to let's kind of not just gloss over as much as many people might. The Phillies are one of the few teams in the majors that have beaten the number one team in their league at the time that they were the number one team in their league.
Right.
The Tigers, when they were the number one team. The Brewers, Dodgers earlier in the season
That's
when
true.
they were number one. This is a Phillies team that, even though they've had their struggles and had their bugaboos and everything, and they're still figuring it out despite everything, going in and beating the best team in that league says that you are in their league, that you are as
That's right.
talented as they are. And that's why, in my opinion, I feel like this is still a World Series contender team because they have proven that they don't fear the big dogs in the playoff hunt. Yes, they have some House of Horrors up in Queens and House of Horrors down in Arizona. I get all that. But my feeling is if you put them against a team like the Brewers or the Braves or the Dodgers, there is a higher likelihood that the Phillies will beat them over many of the bottom teams in the playoff hunt, like the Reds and the Diamondbacks and the Mets. So bring on the best because the Phillies basically live up to that. That's why I hope they treat this 4-game series like the Mets are the best team in the majors because I think they rise to the occasion.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so I was gonna say I got one more, but I'm gonna save it for the player spotlight. So I guess we could segue this into a player spotlight here. So this week the Phillies, like I said, to take on the Mets, and the first one that takes the mound here tonight is Aaron Nola on the mound, and Mitch Kowski joins us now and says, "What's going on, guys?" So good to see you, Mitch, and also check him out every single week, doing a lot of these things on Hardcore Sports Network. And like I said, hit that like and subscribe button on all your social media platforms. Um, Aaron Nola, let's get into it. Let's rip the Band-Aid off. Let's address the elephant in the room. Aaron Nola didn't look very well against that game against Milwaukee on Wednesday night, and he's back on the helm tonight against the Mets. Can we finally see an Aaron Nola game that he doesn't blow up? I mean, the question I want to ask you guys is it's just plain and simple. What can we do to fix Aaron Nola at this point? Joey, I'll start with you.
Well, so I would hazard to say that you would need to let Aaron know that he doesn't have to pitch perfectly. I think that has been his problem. Not even just this season, but I think in the last 2 seasons, Damon Salim has been on our show several times, and he
Oh
said,
yeah,
I hate when me and him both hate when Aaron can get ahead of hitters
and he can't get him
0-2
out.
and he can't get him out
Nope.
because he feels like he still has to make that perfect pitch at 0-2.
Right.
And he can't just throw junk that looks like a strike and dips out of the zone. Like we used to say that was his cutter or his slider, and it doesn't feel like it has that same zip. James, this is where going into the playoffs in the next,
Yeah.
3 weeks. This is kind of where my prediction earlier a couple weeks ago is kind of coming to fruition.
Mm,
Maybe not as badly. It never wanted Zach Wheeler to go down, but that being said, and Austin brought it up about the resilience and resurgence of Ranger Suarez.
right.
My thing is now when you look at NLDS and a potential 3-man starting rotation and putting a starting pitcher in the bullpen as a long man, I think that looks more like an Aaron Nola at this point
Yeah.
because I think you would want to control what situations you put Aaron into.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And it's an even crazier possibility to think that you're in a 3-game series, you run all lefties for your starting rotation for 3 games.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You end up going Sanchez, Suarez, Luzardo.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very strong possibility, and it's just wild to think that you don't have a single ready to sort of break up that eye line.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, and that's the thing too, because you think about it. Mike Green checks in for the first time today. He checked in last week. He says, in my opinion, like he basically said the same thing that you and Joe, me and Damon, and even Joey bring up here is that he nibbles too much at the plate, and that's exactly why he loses confidence, and that's exactly what he does.
He's spending too much time in a 2-strike count trying to catch the edge of the zone on a really well painted pitch.
Yeah,
when you don't need to do that. It
Right.
could honestly be considered a waste pitch if it tunnels well and the eye line is changed. They'll chase.
Mm-hmm.
You just have to have trust in the ability of the pitches. And he in 2 strikes, I don't think he's confident in his stuff in 2-strike situations.
John Smoltz brought this up on one telecast before about how he used to watch Maddox pitch, and he used to with Maddox, if he got ahead of a hitter 0-2, it would be a waste pitch, but it would almost be like a waste pitch to kind of fool, not like hoping that the batter would swing at it, but like plant a seed of deception into the batter's mind. So, like, if Maddox threw it up and high and inside, the batter might think, okay, maybe I got to choke up, and he's gonna pitch it back inside to me again.
Right.
He's choke up, and he's gonna try to do a short swing on it. Well, at that moment, Glavine would throw the slider away, and all of a sudden, that guy's off balance because Glavine said, okay, I'm up on you 0-2. I'm going to waste the pitch to make you think that I'm going to stay inside. But really, I'm setting you up so that I can go back outside. And I think Aaron needs to look at it like the hardest thing to do is get up on a hitter 0-2 or get ahead of a hitter. That's like the best thing a pitcher could do. That being said, when you're sitting here going, okay, that's not the problem that I have. The problem I have is punching him out.
Mm-hmm.
What you need to do is figure out how you can create deception with your pitches.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree, and that's the thing too. I mean, you guys make very good points here about his inconsistency woes have been all year long. I mean, for me with Noah, I mean, I think it's only a matter of time when the postseason starts. I think it's a matter of time you actually put him in the bullpen and then move somebody else in. Move somebody like maybe like a Walker Buehler, like then we'll see what he does during the week. I think he's set the pitch on maybe Friday or Saturday. I think it is. I think it's set for Friday if I'm not mistaken.
Probables are listed as him going against Kansas City on Friday.
Okay, gotcha. So, yeah, I mean, I'll be anxious to see what he looks like on Friday night against Kansas City. But for me, I mean, the thing about it too with Noah, I mean, it's not like I don't want him to. I mean, the craziest part about it is like we bring up here with the 0-2 counts, and also when he just gets too excited to think like, oh, I finally got this guy in the reps, and then he gets a little bit ahead of himself, and that's been the problem with him majority of the time. And I see there's a lot of good times when like he knows how to command that 0-2 count, but sometimes he just gets a little bit of like he kind of gets ahead of himself sometimes more than anything. And even Mike Green brings up a good point here about Pete Rose, and he said I watched an interview with Pete Rose, and he said with the pitcher that gets up 1-2 or 0-2, you should throw your best pitch in that situation and get the guy out. So yeah, I mean that's exactly that's what I'm saying. It's that's exactly what we're saying too, is that if you have command on your baseball and you have the command to throw that 1-2 or 0-2 count, I mean, if this was Roy Halladay, you're going to be out in an instant. If it was Brad you know that slider's coming in an instant too. So that's the problem. He needs to show his command and has to show that he's capable of trying to get the guy out instead of getting a little bit ahead of himself. I mean, am I right?
I would say instead of saying throw your best pitch, I
Mm-hmm.
think Aaron always sees it as I got to throw the perfect pitch.
Right.
And it's like, okay, you don't. Just listen to what Mike's saying. Throw your best pitch. It doesn't need to be, as long as it's not straight over the plate.
And middle
And
in.
still, right. Throw your best pitch.
Mm-hmm.
And just let the gods take it for where it is. Look, there's a perspective, especially with this team, and Austin brought it up earlier about with Aaron's last outing and Tylen's last outing, when this starting pitchers get a little loose in the first couple innings, and this team gets behind, this team is very resilient. And so as long as the pitcher can settle down and kind of settle into their role for the game, there is a chance that the team could come back. Now, that being said, Aaron Nola needs to not begin to settle down after 6 runs come across the plate.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. So the last thing I'll say about this with Aaron Nola too is that maybe there was one thing that Nola needs to do is probably learn something from the past pitchers, like try to go back to school, kind of like how like Jalen Hurts did with Michael Jordan. Not to that extent though. Not ask like the great Gary Maddox or Tom Glavine how to throw, because obviously he's been around for a long, long time, and obviously he's in his 10th year. Hard to believe, but I just wanted to know about Aaron Nola if we can trust him in the postseason. That's the one thing I get a little bit antsy about, is that, like, say for example, like Bueller doesn't look well in his first outing against Kansas City on Friday, and he has a little bit of a struggle. Then it's like, okay, now you don't got Wheeler. I mean, now you got to figure out who you're going to set up your rotation for those games in the playoffs. So it's going to be, and like even Austin brought up, like it might be just like 3 left-handers, like with Suarez and Sanchez and even Luzardo. So maybe, I mean you have to put a right-handed pitcher in there somehow, but the question is though, who would that be? And that's going to be the biggest that's going to be what's going to look like. That's the one thing I'm going to be kind of curious to know what they're going to look like in these next handful of weeks before the season ends. Go ahead, Austin.
And I feel like that's kind of the downside to being a starting pitcher in Major League Baseball.
Sure.
Is you're trying to find a rhythm, and you have a rough start and you're trying to find it again, like still trying to work on it. You have 5 days to figure it out.
Mm-hmm.
Go back out there again, and it's just tough to be able to have so much time in between like actual like in-game sessions to have to try and figure out the stuff that you need to fix. So
I'm going to sound like the fuddy-duddy here.
Go ahead.
The old
Go
man,
ahead,
get off my lawn kind of thing. But I remember before, back in my day, that there used to be a 4-man pitching rotation, not a 5-man, a
Yeah.
4-man. There
That's true.
wasn't bullpen games. There was men throwing the ball. Yes, I get that sounds very old school, but it's the truth.
Sounds like something back in my day too, brother.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I mean, like, that's the thing is, like, when you're talking about these what Austin is saying about 5 days,
Sure, yeah.
I go back to some of those other pitchers that when it was a 4-man rotation, when you're back up, when your number gets called back up, and you struggled every fourth day, you show up to the ballpark, you go, okay, I'm going to make this right. I'm going to get myself back to where I need to be. And when you look at like the pitchers like Nolan Ryan and Steve Carlton and Kurt Schilling and stuff like that, where
Oh,
they
Amos
were
too.
able, right, where they were able to get back on the mound, and sometimes when they're already doing well, just keep feeding the beast.
Right.
And so now with a 5-man rotation, I mean, believe it or not, like with Walker Buehler, the original concept with Walker Buehler or any of that before Zach Wheeler went down was that they were going to move to a 6-man rotation. I'm like,
I
oh my
know.
god, like what are we doing here, folks? Like,
Yeah, no.
enough is enough, Uncle. And so
Right.
I'm going to sit here and say that even if they had a 3-man rotation with the 3 lefties, even though that you will, I'm with Austin in the sense that you would want to have a righty to kind of break up the eye line or break up the lineup, especially if a lineup does well against the first lefty. They'll know kind of how to kind of game plan for the next one. So I get all that, but the question you had asked, James, is do I trust Aaron Nola in the playoffs?
Hmm.
No.
I don't either.
The answer is no.
No.
Yeah. Right.
No
Right
chance.
now, no.
No.
If
No.
Nola can lock in
Yes.
2 or 3 solid starts getting in this home stretch here,
Sure.
the trust will go up. But
Yes.
until then, I would honestly feel more confident running the 3 lefties.
Yes.
And
I'm with you.
even if Walker Buehler has 2 good starts to round out this season, still your 3 lefties have been your best pitchers because of the fact that Wheeler's not playing. Run them. Run your best guys. Give yourself the best possible chance to get through this wild card round, this first round, and into the next.
Oh yeah.
You know,
I agree.
ride the hot hands. You have to ride the hot hands, and they've been hot all year long.
Yeah, and they've been really solid too. I think that's the other thing. It's that, I mean, obviously you want to have like that lefty righty matchup, but if there's 3 lefties are like the best, I mean, even we brought it up last week, and I said to myself, like, if we have all left, I mean, we have those 3 lefties, I think 95 or 99% of the time out of 100 will win those games. I mean, the thing about it with Noah is just that I don't know what pitcher is going to show up. Like, there's games that he'll like be fantastic, and I hope it's tonight. And I hope it'll be like a really good game to watch. And there's other games that you sit there and say that like he has like his like struggles against Milwaukee. I mean, tonight could be a good example that he finally breaks out of that. But then again, I mean, it's kind of like feast or famine. It's like we don't know like which pitcher we're going to see every night. You know?
I mean, you got to keep in mind something and kind of rest our hats on this. And I know Paul Scheme's going to probably win NL Cy Young, but
Right.
Christopher Sanchez, no slump. And for him, when he's your one, we're lucky
Yeah.
because Zach Wheeler went down. This could have went ugly. This could have got real ugly, real
Oh
bad.
yeah.
Oh yeah.
And the fact that we had this much starting pitching depth, it's a blessing in disguise. And look, well, again, it's like you guys are saying, if it's 3 lefties, it's our best 3 pitchers, and you run out there what you know is successful. And Christopher Sanchez being as successful of a pitcher as he's been, yeah, I'm confident with him in game 1 of
Absolutely.
whatever it is, the DS or the wild card.
Yeah. All right, let's move on. I'm sorry,
all 3
Austin.
all 3 of those guys minimum 11 wins each.
There you go.
11 for Suarez, 12 for Sanchez, 13 for Luzardo.
There we go. Enough said. There we go. So let's move on here. So obviously, it's I haven't done this topic in a while. It's called bullpen watch, and it's basically it would usually be the time I would critique the bullpen of how they need to be better or how they need to step up their game a little bit. But the come to Jesus moment is that not Jesus Luzardo, Johan Duran has been a real positive ever since coming in to the fold of becoming the next closer for the Phillies. And I gotta say right now, I don't know how many times I have to talk about this, but I feel like when he throws 102 and 103, it doesn't even feel like he throws that hard because it feels. I mean, you think of Rodas Chapman, and you see like gas coming out of the smoke coming out of the glove. Like Johan Duran, I don't know what he's doing that he like how he's throwing that baseball like 102, but he's just become such a. It's just a sigh of relief to say that we finally got ourselves a good closer that I haven't said probably since Brad Lidge in 2008. So I got to say right now, and he's been and believe it or not, the bullpen has been pretty damn decent the last handful of times when he took the mound. So my question to you guys is that can this bullpen stay? Can this bullpen stay legitimate and going into the postseason? Austin, I'll start with you first.
I mean, I'd like to think so. You've been seeing solid bullpen work over the past couple of weeks, especially ever since the Duran trade happened. Mm-hmm. Just in the last week alone, he had 3 saves in that whole week. So if the situation is there, he's been very consistent, and especially leading into those situations where you have Matt Strahm, Orion Kerkering, those kinds of guys leading into him, and they've been showing really good stuff. You've been seeing really solid bullpen work in those tight games. The games where things have gotten a bit out of hand, the guys that come in are usually the ones that end up giving up more. But when you're in like a 3-run game, mm-hmm. you're getting the best bullpen guys because of the fact that there's a fight that's still there.
Sure.
And you're seeing them hold guys, especially in the game yesterday. Mm-hmm. The bullpen held. And you had an opportunity to have a really good stab at being able to come back and win that game late. Right. And if you can keep getting stuff like that, you're going to have a really good chance to keep yourself in ball games and making an even bigger impact in the playoffs.
Yeah, and the craziest part about it is that like even his intro fits his narrative. It's like a centerfold more than anything for the crowd. I mean, the crowd's all pumped up as it already is when he comes into the game. And the craziest part about it is that, like, you would have thought he would be like, kind of like he would take his time, like play with the batter play with his pitches once in a while. Like he only pitches like 4 or 5 pitches, and there's already 2 outs already. I'm thinking like, man, this guy knows how to pitch fast. It's kind of like we have with Christopher Sanchez as the starter, as one of our starting pitchers. And it feels like the same thing we have with Johan Duran. I mean, once he has that ball, he's just like firing away. I mean, Joe, I got to say right now, it's probably one of the best things that happened with this Phillies team, probably in a long time.
Yeah, and so well, I want to go and touch on a couple things. Number one, the entrance. So
it's fantastic, man.
It was such a good entrance and so innovative that even the Philadelphia Eagles had to rip it off.
Sure, right.
They had to use the QR code and get everybody involved on banner night. So I'm like, okay, it's contagious now. But more than that, here's the other part of it. 102 miles an hour now. Roldis Chapman's not a small fella, but he's not a tall fella either.
Right.
But Johan Duran's is 6'5". This guy is a tall.
That's insane.
Dude. And so understand something. Why does height matter for a pitcher? Because his release point for his pitch when he's a taller pitcher is closer to the plate. So if his pitch is 102 out of the gun, because the pitch is released closer, it must come out as like 105 towards the hitter. Now I remember during the one Marlins game, Ruben Amaro Jr. was like, okay, all you have to do is just throw it high and inside. But he threw it high and inside at 102 miles an hour, hit the backstop so much where it almost broke the boom mic. And so I'm like, okay, that's not where we were saying to throw it, but okay, we understand your power. Like, that's amazing.
And
But
he
I
knows
have,
how to locate too. That's the thing too. He knows how to locate that ball like in stride too.
but I have to actually give a little bit of love on the bullpen to another guy who I think is been outstanding
Mm.
is Matt Strom.
Oh yeah.
Matt Strom has been outstanding in the moments he has been put in. And,
Mhm.
for all intents and purposes, in the beginning of this season, he looked a little shaky. And I was like, okay, wait a minute. This guy was someone we relied on. We lost Hoffman. We lost Alvarado. Now Strom's kind of shaky. And I was starting to be concerned. But this guy has lowered his ERA close to 1. And so for me, it's amazing the work that Strom has done.
Mm-hmm.
And so you pairing him with a guy like Banks, with a guy like eventually Alvarado, at least for the rest of the regular season, Johan Duran. Like, there is a back end of this bullpen with Orion Kirkring. There's a back end of this bullpen in good shape going into the playoffs. And especially when you add an addition like Walker Buehler and David Robertson that can finish off that bullpen. I mean, Walker Buehler through the final out of the World Series last year.
That's
This
right.
guy is a champion already. David Robinson is looking like he's reborn at 40. That this is a bullpen that is prime to have someone like a Johan Duran at the back end of it to be primed to do really good things. Now look, the key is, and we go back to the NOLA, we go back to the other starting pitchers. You just can't get blown up too early. You
Right.
gotta hang with them. And that's why I think in this 4-game series, that is going to be the biggest, biggest thing for them to focus on. Do not let the game get out of hand early.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's true. And my dad brings up a very good point here about the bullpen, like we brought up here, is that it seems like the run got here, and the other pieces of the bullpen know their roles a lot better now
Yeah.
since the run came here. So, I mean that's the truth. That's the thing. I mean,
You
ever
know who's
since
disappeared?
what's that?
You know who's disappeared, James? Your favorite guy, Jordan Romano, has
Yeah,
disappeared.
yeah, right.
Yeah, last I saw, he was on
There is a pulse.
the IL.
Yeah. He
Yeah, I
might
mean,
be on a milk carton soon, just to let everybody know.
well, I can go to Kensington. I wouldn't care. I'm just teasing.
I wouldn't wish
Got
that on anyone, but okay.
No, I'm just kidding. God, don't. Well, the problem is with Romano. I mean, I was preaching to this for as long as I can remember, and I just said to myself, is that okay? You got rid of Jeff Hoffman and you brought this guy in, and then the first week of the season, I'm thinking, okay, maybe he'll be okay, but then he gives up a home run here, home run there, home run here, and I'm saying to myself, is that when is it going to be the end? And then somehow, some way, he says, okay, I got an injury on my middle finger. Well, if you know what I mean. If you're from this town of
Yeah.
Philadelphia, here's that
Yeah.
middle finger right back at you. You know, it's kind of like our way of saying salute. You know, but at the same time too. But no, I mean with Duran and also with this bullpen, you brought it up perfectly, Joe. Is that the everybody has become like ever since Duran came here, Strom has looked well. Tanner Banks has looked very well. Even like David Robertson, like at 40 years old, looks like he's like living like still like he's in his like early 30s or early 20s, and he knows how to pitch the baseball. I mean, this bullpen, I gotta say right now, I mean, at first I didn't expect a lot of big things with Dabrowski early on in the trade deadline, but with Bader and also with Duran as these acquisitions, maybe something. Maybe Dave Dombrowski knows what he's talking about. What things and knows a thing or two about to pump up the crowd when it's needed to get these acquisitions in here. And it's very Pat Gillick of him to bring these guys in.
Yeah, as long as David Robinson doesn't do any celebrating.
Sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Okay, we got well, I got one more. Actually, I think we got everything we need to know about the bullpen. So, I would ask you guys this about the minor league report here, but there's not a lot to be talking about with the minor league report because obviously Walker Buehler is coming up on Friday, like Austin brought up here. Since like September is the time for call-ups for the Phillies to bring up call-up players from like either from the AAA affiliate or the AA affiliate. Is there any players out there that the Phillies should bring up on the minor league report, especially when you can call up players in September like they always do up September? So Joey, I'll ask you this: is there any players that stick out to you that the Phillies should bring up here in September for this hopefully this and for this the counting of the days down for the NL East to hopefully for the Phillies to the question I want to ask, I don't know how to ask it, but I just want to ask if there's any more call-ups that the Phillies should bring up here in this month of September rather.
Yeah, well, I would have liked to have seen Aiden Miller get a run, especially with Trey Turner going down.
Sure.
I would have liked to have seen Aiden Miller and see him get a couple at Major League at bats, seeing if he's either good or just good in AAA. Seeing Otto Kemp come back up, I'm happy about that because I
that's
feel like
cool.
he's a good player. It's tough because I know people want to see Crawford. I just don't think it's time to rush that kid up here. And I would have liked to have seen Painter, but like with Walker Buehler and that acquisition, that kind of sealed Painter's fate of not being called up this year, which is fine. I think Painter needs to take this off season. He needs to evaluate his season in AAA and come back into spring training and be ready to fight for a starting position in this club. Because I think he can't just think I'm going to walk into spring training and get handed a position. That's not the way this is going to work.
Right. Yeah, same question to you, Austin. Is there any players out there in the minor league system that you want the Phillies to bring up here, especially in September?
I mean, honestly, the like Joe was saying, seeing would have loved to have seen Aiden Miller a little bit. But with the situation being how it is now, you kind of are glad that you didn't really make that move because you don't want to have to put Aiden Miller into too much of a pressure situation with Trey Turner being on the IL at this current point.
Sure.
So I feel like Otto Kemp was the safe call up here. You get a guy that already has some major league experience, can hit the ball pretty well, can play defense pretty well. So especially having him as a bench option right now, he's a solid enough bat that you have that option there. Give Aiden Miller some time in AAA to sort of, keep himself fresh, come into spring training next year, just like with Andrew Painter, see if you can fight your way into a starting position on the major league roster for next year.
Yeah, absolutely. My dad brings up a good point here about Andrew Painter. He says Andrew Painter, obviously, but he's not ready after that Tommy John surgery that he had around this point last year, I think it was. So I guess he'll be fully ready in 2026. So we'll be hopefully keeping a close eye on that when spring training comes up at 26. For me, I don't think there's a lot of good. There won't be a lot of players that I would like to see call up here. I mean, obviously, like Justin Crawford's an example of that. Aiden Miller's an example of that. I'm in the same boat as you, Joe. I think Otto Kemp is a very good player to bring back up here to see what he can bring up to the table here, especially with Trey Turner being down and even Alec Boehm on the 10-day IL. If I got to pick one, maybe it's because probably like Garrett Stubbs because he's like a good like captain in the locker room to try to pump the team up like in the postseason. Get him. I mean, obviously he doesn't he's a good leader in the locker room is what I'm trying to say. I think that's probably the one thing that sticks out to me the most. But if I had to pick one, maybe I have to go with Yeah, you know what? Maybe I'll go with that. Maybe I'll go with Garrett Stubbs because, like I said, like how much of a leader he is in the locker room and how he gets the team, get them ready for postseason baseball. So it's good to see him back with the Phillies again. So that'll be something to keep a close eye on. Obviously, I don't think he'll be making the postseason roster here, but him as a leader in that locker room helps a lot. To like for like new guys that are trying to build up for that postseason push here. I mean, it's good to see Garrett Stubbs be a leader in that locker room to try to get them ready for that postseason celebration and all that too, because you can't celebrate without Garrett Stubbs, and that's the most important thing. And hopefully we'll see that in a couple of weeks from now, because the counting of the days down are for the Phillies to capture the NL East, and I think it's down to 13 now. So after tonight, we'll be hopefully bent down to 12, and it's kind of like it's a countdown every single game with the Phillies and Mets, and also every team about that included along the way too. So I would have thought Stubbs was already up here. I think.
Yeah, when the rosters expanded on September 1st, he was a call up.
That's right. Yeah, I thought so. Okay, all right. Before we get out of here, we're going to talk about this upcoming series with the Phillies and the Mets here. So tonight the Phillies open up a 4-game set with the Mets. So we talked about it earlier. We had Aaron Nola on the mound tonight for the Phillies. His record this season. Hopefully, he can get his 4th win on the season. He is 3-8, obviously, this season, and has an ERA of 6.78, so it's close to 7. And I think that's going to be, if he doesn't have a good night again, it's going to be a cause for concern. And he'll be opposed by Nolan McLean, who is 4-0 this season and has an ERA of 1.37. And so it's about time we see him finally lose a game, hopefully tonight against the Phils. Tomorrow night, we got Ranger Suarez on the mound against the Mets, as he is also 11-6 this year with a 2.89 ERA, and he'll be opposed by Sean Manaea, who is 1-2 this season and has an ERA of 5.60. On Wednesday night, we got a pitcher's duel. We got Christopher Sanchez for the Phillies. On that Wednesday night, he is also 12-5 this year and has a 2.60 ERA, and he'll be opposed by Clay Holmes, who is 11-7 and has an ERA of 3.61. And to close out the series on Thursday night, on September the 11th, that will be David Peterson for the Mets. And he'll be opposed for the Phillies. That's still to be determined. So I'm guessing it will be either like a Taiwan Walker, or maybe they'll probably bring up. Actually, I think Taiwan Walker will be towards the weekend, so I'm not entirely sure who.
The probable I'm seeing for Thursday is Jesus Luzardo.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. Okay, so if it is Jesus Luzardo, he'll be opposed by David Peterson, and he has an ERA of 9.5 on the year. Is Peterson and has an ERA of 3.72. So pretty good matchup, pretty good pitchers duel for these next few games. Obviously, after tonight, like I said, we got Suarez, Tamar, Sanchez, and hopefully Luzardo on Thursday. So, simply put, like I always ask you guys, what are your expectations for this upcoming series with the Mets and the Warriors coming up on the weekend?
Yeah, I think that I want to put this thing to bed. I'm going to go 3 games against the Mets. We're going to take 3 out of the 4, and then I think we're going to sweep the Royals. So I think that, we're going to do well in this week, and this is going to set the tone for the rest of the season. Because if this team goes, 5-1, 6-1 in the next 7 games, you're looking at this team potentially putting more pressure on the Brewers to keep that 1 seed, and number 2, putting the Dodgers in the rearview mirror along with the New York Mets.
Right. Yeah, same question to you, Austin. How do you think this series will go with the Mets this week with them coming to CBP tonight?
I'm honestly I'm in the same boat as Joe. 3-1. Really put start to put the nails in the coffin for the Mets. See if having a backbreaking series in Philly against Philadelphia and a chance to, in an opportunity to be able to fight your way back into a tight race for the NL East, just have it fade.
Right.
Kansas City over the weekend, I want to say sweep, but I think that we'll end up dropping one to them because Kansas City's a real scrappy team.
Sure.
Salvi Perez, Vinny Pascatino, and those guys out there.
Bobby Witt. Bobby Witt's a good
Bobby
player
Witt.
too.
Those guys are some dogs, and they have a lot of fight in them. So you want to hope that you sweep to really put even more pressure going into the last 2 weeks of the season on like Joe said, not only the Brewers but the Mets and the Dodgers.
Sure.
Put those guys in the rearview mirror coming into the last 2 weeks and just start trying to push for that 1 seed.
Yeah.
Even if you still sit pretty at 2, you're still sitting pretty at 2. But
absolutely,
at this point, putting pressure on other teams is going to be big.
Yeah, for sure. And I think the other thing too is like I think we're all in agreement here. I think the Phillies take 3 out of 4 with the Mets tonight. So I think if they drop this one tonight, I say they win tomorrow, they win on Wednesday, and I think they take the series on Thursday night against the Mets too. So I mean, yeah, if they sweep the Mets, that'll be something cool to see because I don't think that hasn't happened. And I'm like 18 years ago when the Phillies swept the Mets in 4, and that was around 2007 when they were counting days down before. And that was around August of 2007. I think it was the last time the Phillies actually swept the Mets here at CBP. So it's a long time since it happened. But if you take 3 out of 4, I'm good with it. If you sweep the Mets,
the beginning of the collapse in 2007.
Yeah.
By the way.
Yeah. Oh wow. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
So I mean. When was the last time, Joe? You said 2011, or was that 2007?
2007. In
2007.
2007, that 4-game sweep of the Mets was the beginning of the collapse.
Oh, that's right.
When
that's
they had
right.
11 games, 11-game lead in the division.
You're right.
That was the beginning of the collapse.
Yeah, I got confused. I thought you said about the Phillies. I said, no, I don't think it was not the 120-0. Like the 2001. No, that's right. I forgot they had a big collapse in that too. That was the beginning of it. That's absolutely right. Good eye by you, Joe. Sometimes I'm like the encyclopedia. I like the way you think, dude. You're good, my friend.
Yeah, if you can sweep the Mets in this 4-game set, it'll be a backbreaker for them.
Oh yeah.
If you can pull that off, you send them scrambling for trying to pull together wins.
Oh hell yeah.
Because their schedule doesn't get any easier after us either.
No.
If you put their backs against the wall leaving Philly, they might be cooked.
Oh yeah.
Well, and you have to look at it this way too. We just got done saying it. Yeah, we're wishful of trying to get the 1 seed, but we'll be okay if we get this if we stay at the 2 because that's still a bye. But the thing is, if the Mets lose 4 and get swept out, they go back and they have to then say, okay, we need to regroup in a hurry because the wild card's slipping away. Mm-hmm. And that's why I asked you in the beginning, Austin, how much of a lead do they have in that last seed? You got to think if by the end of this series, they only have a 1 or 2 game lead over the Reds or the Diamondbacks, all of a sudden panic mode starts to hit the Mets organization.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. The last thing I'll say about this too with the Mets, well, I mean, the one thing is for sure. I think like you said, Austin, it's like a tough series coming up here after tonight. I mean, after this series with the Mets, I think they got a long ways away. So it's gonna not be a cakewalk for them. But for the most important thing about it too is that if the Phillies can continue to win their games, I mean, especially this environment, I would definitely be sure it feel like Red October tonight here at CBP. So that place will be jumping. And I would be sure it'll be, in the words of Scott Fransky, it'll be definitely bedlam at the bank, especially. It'll be something to keep a close eye on too. And also, my dad brings up one more thing here. He says a sweep will put the Phillies up 11 into the division, so it'll be something to keep a close eye on too. So if you sweep the Mets, you are now 11 games up in the division, so that's something to keep a close eye on, especially in that series too.
11 games up, and I think it'll be like 15 to play.
Yep.
So it'll be all but over. But
absolutely.
But the thing that I'm going to just say in closing, look, we took care of one rival in Philadelphia this past week with the Cowgirls.
That's true.
Let's go take care of another rival with the Mets and send the Queens back to Queens.
Do it off right. Let's send them back off right like we did with the Cowboys on Thursday night when we raised the banner. I like the
win for Wheeler.
Yeah, win it for Wheeler.
Yeah.
Yep, win it for Wheeler. Exactly right, brother. All right, that's going to do us.
After this series in Philadelphia, the Mets play Texas, San Diego, Washington, Chicago, Miami.
Ooh, man.
Good luck. And
they
lost to Miami. Let's keep that
That's true.
in perspective. They did lose to Miami. So that's not a walk. That's not a cakewalk.
That's in San Diego, right?
Mm-hmm.
Oh wow, that's gonna be man.
Yeah,
that's gonna be a tough climb to rock to climb. All right, that's gonna do it for this portion of This Week in Phillies baseball this week. I want to thank Joey Marks and also Austin Hamill joining us like we always do every single week. Austin, where can people see you next on these programs?
This upcoming Saturday on the Harker Play and Rewind podcast. I don't remember what the game is that we're doing, but that will be Saturday at somewhere between noon and 1 Eastern. And then aside from that, twitch.tv/Hambo26. I've been playing a lot of Baldur's Gate 3, Resident Evil 4,
nice.
Random other stuff with friends throughout the week. So you can catch me there. Make sure you drop a follow. If you can, drop a sub. I very much appreciate it. But yeah, I mean, aside from that, I believe not next week, but the week after for This Week in Phillies baseball to round out the season.
Yeah, so I guess we should let everybody know this. Coming up in the next couple of weeks or so, we are going to switch from the Phillies into Orange and Black Flyers hockey. So if we have any information about that, we'll definitely send it along to you. Joey, last thing before we go, I think we got Paznaf Sports Show. I just called myself Paznaf Sports Show this week. What do we got coming up on Saturday morning?
Well, we hopefully we're going to have our old buddy Frank Finnegan, so I
knew it, my man.
Put him on the spotlight because Frank Finnegan did say that the New York Mets was going to win this division a couple weeks ago. So we will have to have a discussion there. But the other part is we're going to talk more about the Mets series and leading into the playoffs.
Nice.
You know, we're also going to preview some of the Kansas City. We're facing the Kansas City Royals this weekend, but next weekend we're going to be facing the Kansas City Chiefs. So we are going to talk a lot about Kansas City. This coming
week of Kansas City. Yep. So it's going to be a lot of fun. Obviously, I'm looking forward to it. Before we go, like I brought up on the show earlier, if you're a new member or a previous member or even a legitimate member and you like this program, hit that like and subscribe button on our sister station, Stream Punk Entertainment, and right here on our station, right here, Hardcore Sports Network. All right, so I'm going to prepare myself for this Phillies game here tonight, and hopefully you guys do also. And now for everyone behind the scenes and for everyone that made it work here, for Joey Marks, for Austin Hamill, I'm James Scorza here. I want to say thank you for watching, everybody. We really do appreciate all the love that we always do here. And like we say here in Philadelphia, FTM. Until then, we'll see you guys on the other side. Have a good one. Go